done for. Everyone get out.
Greetings sailors, welcome to the first of the gameplay videos for the Russian DDs, and what I've decided to do is split them up by tiers. So this is going to be tiers 2, 3 and 4. It's just basically some selections of gameplay, and I haven't played that many battles in any of these machines, so this is not necessarily representative of what these are actually going to be like. So this is the tier 2, the Storozhevoy, with the 3-kilometer torpedoes. Pretty bad. Managed to get a jump on this Samson, and as you can see, he's about to be very unhappy indeed. Now this was just, he was just not paying attention at all. And when I was talking in the port video about the ambush tactics working best at the low tiers, even though they have by far the worst torpedo range of any of the tiers at 3 kilometers, it's still like there's enough distracted players around, there's enough players that aren't playing very well, there's enough players that are new to the game that you can kind of, like, it doesn't matter that much. You can set up these ambushes, and here we go. This is an umikaze that just about to sail into range, so I'm going to put out a spread, and I've got 3 launchers with 6 torps each, and you don't need that many to nuke another destroyer. And this other destroyer that's next to me has also put his torps out, so this guy is probably dead. So I actually only used 2 of my launchers there, and let's get another, there we go, another hit. No, someone else gets the kill, okay. But I, you know, in the time it took me to complete that turn, that was enough to reload the torp. So even on tier 2, the torps reload fairly quickly. And I tried to do something really risky at this point. I circled back round and thought, okay, that's a cruiser, that's the Hashidate. I'm going to charge him down over open water and try and get my torpedoes off and see how it goes. And that's the thing when you're in a test account with new vehicles like this. It's like you just try things, and they're not necessarily sensible things, but you want to see how they'll go. You want to see how the machines will perform. You want to see what they're capable of, even if you are doing silly things. You want to see what kind of tactics will work. So I've got the torps out, I've gone to super close range. I've lost most of my health in the process, and this is why in the port video, as I was saying, I think this is this and the tier 3 are probably best as battleship hunters, and maybe as you saw at the start of the video, jumping on unsuspecting destroyers, because cruisers just have too good a rate of fire. They will murder you as you're trying to get close, and I actually wondered if I was going to burn out, but my repair cooldown is nearly done, and I'm going to be able to actually repair in time to not just completely, you know, die. Now there are a couple of ships left in this match, and I went after them just because, you know, why not? There's still points to be had. I've got 2 kills already, but I wanted to put the guns to test, and they're not terrible guns, but yeah, at the low tiers, as I was saying, the guns are rather more secondary. It's more the torpedoes. And you'll see here, I'm struggling slightly to keep the guns on target. Although this was a captain, is a captain with the expert marksman skill, so that does improve your turret traverse speed quite considerably. So I was just trying out the AP shells. I mean, these are tier 1 cruisers for crying out loud. If my AP shells can't pen that, then I don't know what they can pen. And these are 102mm guns. It's only a little, I think it's tier 5. Is it tier 4 or tier 5 that you get the... I didn't actually mention this in the port video, but you don't get the 130mm guns until, I think, tier 5. I think it is. I don't think it's tier 4. But even so, you know, low tier destroyers, no armour at all. Low tier cruisers, rather. So it seems worth at least trying. But I really wasn't getting a lot of hits. And I really didn't have a lot of hits in this game with guns either. It was all torpedoes. And although I'm doing a little bit of damage here, I mean, look at the arc on these shells, and that is something, and again, I didn't mention this, but having played these, the shell arc on all of the destroyer guns seems pretty high. So, trying to get citadel hits against the sides of people's hulls, unless you're at pretty close ranges, you're going to have plunging deck hits, basically. You can still get citadels that way, but it does seem like sometimes that's going to hurt you as well, especially with higher tiers when you are relying more on the guns and it's a very high arc. Sometimes it's going to help, sometimes it's going to be that you can get shots over terrain that you would have struggled with otherwise, but other times a flatter trajectory would be much better. So that was about 20 odd K damage with those 6 hits, most of it against destroyers. But if you're thinking, well, what's it like against battleships, you will get to see very shortly. So this is the tier 3, and I don't even know how you pronounce that, and yes, that actually kind of was my fault. I was not paying attention to the mini-map and the fact that there was a battleship closing on me very rapidly, and that I was convergent. So it did literally catch me unawares, and I was trying to get to this position because I saw that that's a sneaky destroyer that is trying to get around this island, and again, 3 kilometer torp, so setting up for an ambush. And if I do it right, I can absolutely blow this guy out of the water. Now, the flavour of this is 5 launchers. You can get 10 torps in the water. You can blanket any given position, and I think that was actually friendly fire there, with torps, and it is absolutely devastating. And they don't individually do as much damage as the American tier 3 torpedoes, but you can just reload so quickly. I'm already reloaded on the torp launches. It's ridiculous. It's 22 seconds. So, although I think with the, I can't even remember how many launchers it is that the Wix has, but yeah, and again another destroyer ambush. I saw our destroyer was. I was waiting till he was past, basically, before I went for this. What is that? Umikaze? No, Clemson. And again, just blanketing the place with torpedoes. So if these miss, I'll eat my hat. And there we go, managed to nail him. So, yeah, it's just, it absolutely is. You want maps like this. You want lots of cover to play with, lots of concealment, and you want to be able to approach people without being spotted. Now, I saw a pocket of battleships over here. I decided, okay, let's give this a go. And this is where the range becomes a bit more of a problem, because I want to pop round and pump them full of torpedoes, and I kind of try it, but even though these guys are super close, I'm well within secondary range, and there we go, that Wyoming's actually paying attention to the fact that, hey, there's a destroyer nearby. It's not enough range, it absolutely isn't. But the thing is, by the time you circle around to make another pass, your torpedoes are loaded again. They are so quick. And this thing is going to be extremely troll, I think, in the right hands, in the right circumstances. It's either going to be completely useless because you can't get close enough to do anything, or it's going to be running up to people and have lots of torpedoes! Have all of the torpedoes! Here, 20 seconds later, have more torpedoes! All of the torpedoes! So, I don't know, this might become known as a low-tier troll boat. You can absolutely spank unwary players with this, and there are a lot more of those at the lower tiers. Now, I thought maybe 1 or 2 of these were going to hit. Most of them actually won't, but as you'll see in a moment, I do get 1 hit, and most of them are actually falling short. In fact, I think it was the previous spread where I got 1 hit, so anyway. But, yeah, so I could go around again, but there's a battleship coming down from the north, Kawachi, who has just shaved off a big chunk of my health. And tier for tier, actually, the hit points of these boats, not so much at the low tiers, but they tend to have very good hit points. In fact, in some cases, they are best in tier in terms of health. But there we go, that Wyoming, definitely within range, although only just. If he turns hard to avoid these, he might well. And this is, again, risky, but I'm kind of relying on the fact that there's other things for them to shoot here, and I've done this in such a way, or I've gone for the target where there's only him that can shoot back at me. It's not going to be multiple things shooting at me. But I don't kill him, but I do take off a lot of his health. So this is already, what, 11 torpedo hits? And I try another couple because if he goes forward, he'll go into them, but actually I realised as I was dropping those, yeah, he looks like he's entirely stationary at this point. So just circling around again. This is a very quick clip even to show the guns in action, but yeah, I mean, they're all fast-firing guns, even at the low tiers, but it's just the turret traverse at the low tiers makes them, generally speaking, not a very attractive option. And it's kind of the problem that the low-tier Japanese had as well, in that anytime you needed to use your guns was probably not going to be good for you. Anyway, I was hoping to sneak up on this, is it the Kawachi that's slightly to the north? But the Tenryu there, Wyoming, there we are. The Tenryu decided to open fire at me. I mean, there's lots of stuff around, that's why I felt more comfortable making this approach, but You know, I'm a destroyer, I'm low health, and the Tenryu just picks me out as a priority. And I suppose when you see a destroyer going in like that, you probably should. But as people get to know these things, get to know these ships on the battlefield as opponents, then they will be significantly more wary of letting you get this close. So when I say this might be a go-to troll boat, that might only be for a while. It might be people start to get very aware of this and just what it can do at close ranges. So this Wyoming is not firing at me, or at least he isn't yet, so that's a full spread out, and you can do over 60k damage with a full spread of these torpedoes, and looks like they're going to hit. I had my engine knocked out and get him, but unfortunately the Kawachi there just nails me at exactly the same instant. But we're about to win this on points because that Kawachi's not going to be alive too much longer. So yeah, my experience with this was hilarious when it works, but a bit frustrating the rest of the time. And I imagine that is going to only kind of be worse as people learn to be more wary of it, because that ability to get out so many torpedoes. I fired 66 torpedoes in this match. That's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. Somebody pointed out on, oh, I don't even know, it might have been Reddit. Yeah, it was Reddit. I posted a screenshot of this, and they pointed out that that many torpedoes would weigh more than the ship or something like that. It would be a lot of torpedoes anyway. So that was nearly 50,000 damage from torpedoes in a tier 3 battle, or tier 4 battle actually. So yeah, it's a bit crazy. So then we come to the one that I think is a bit of a stinker, the tier 4. It's actually, I mean, if it was a bit faster, it wouldn't be so bad. I think it's the speed that kind of just, in combination with the fact that it still has that terrible turret traverse, it's still the lower caliber guns. That it's not great, but you do get 5-kilometer torpedoes. Now, that's still well within your detection range, but it's a little bit better. But if you had 5-kilometer torpedoes with a bit more speed, if you had say 5-6 more knots to go with that, then that would be rather more usable. So anyway, I've popped my smoke. I'm probably going to get spotted anyway. And alongside the lower speed of this thing, it doesn't. I mean, I think I was doing a tight turn here anyway. I killed my speed on purpose. But you'll see in the clips of the next replay that I put on that manoeuvring hard, I mean, it kills your speed a bit in any ship, but you feel it more in this one, because as a destroyer you rely on your speed, and yet this thing doesn't have that much to begin with, so it might just be that it feels worse. Anyway, I was waiting until he popped around the island to put my torps out, and we're down to 3 launchers with a longer reload, but these ones do more damage per torpedo. And I was trying not to run aground here, and I failed miserably. And it looked like I was going to get away with it, and then I didn't. So I got 2 hits, and then another 3 hits, and I think the rest are going to miss him. So 6 hits, there we go. 1 more did hit. So that was a big chunk of his health. That's a tier 5 battleship, and I just took off, what, nearly 30,000 damage, something like that. But I took a big chunk of damage myself in return, but not that much. I mean, I think that was a pretty decent trade. And that's the thing when you're trying to use the torpedoes, even when right up to tier 7, because of course with the tiers 5 to 7 it drops down to 4-kilometer torpedoes. You can do that. You can try and charge somebody down, and it's much better if you can pop around an island, as I did with the first 2 games. But often it's going to be the very last thing you'll do. So that's why I think once you get to having those 4-kilometer torpedoes, although you can do that kind of suicide charge, and over open water it basically is a suicide charge, but they're much more about firing from stealth. And actually I kind of managed that a couple of times in this boat as well. Now this is the ocean map. This is going to be one of the worst maps for this particular nation, this particular line of destroyers, because from tier 5 upwards, I mean, the detection range on this isn't so bad, but it's only got like 10-kilometer range on the guns. And I was actually, and not at this stage, but when you're right towards the edge of your gun range, with the camo paint on, you can just about fire from stealth, but it really is absolutely at the limit of your range. And because this is a slower boat, the Cleveland is probably faster than this. This is a tier 6 battle. So keeping pace, trying to stay in range to shoot from stealth. It was a losing fight, basically. So I think at this point, this is, yeah, there are bits of this where I am firing from stealth. But you can see how close to the edge of his my gun range is, and even turning to try and keep him in range, I really wasn't managing it. And there's a whole bit I cut out where I was just firing volley after volley after volley that were falling short because he was literally on the edge of the range, and I couldn't really keep up with him, and I didn't want to use my speed boost consumable just for the purpose of trying to fire HE at this Cleveland. So I mean, the rate of fire, again, it's good. The rate of fire is good across all of these ships. It's just the turret traverse. And the particular layout on this one is, you know, when I'm giving chase to this guy, and I'm spotted from the air at this point, when I'm giving chase to this guy, I can only get one gun on him. And if I turn, well, of course, then he can easily outpace me again. But I've managed to get back into range because he's manoeuvring himself. That is bleeding off his own speed, and he's obviously more concentrating on firing at the nearby Allied cruiser, which is why I can get away with this. It's why I felt, again, I felt this was a good time to open up with the guns because there were multiple friendlies around. It wasn't necessarily just me that was going to get targeted. I wasn't going to be ahead of everybody else and the only thing to shoot at. So this is a bit further on. We chased down their carriers. I actually circled back to being near the friendly Congo to give him some air support, or rather I thought he was going to give me air support because, you know, it's a Congo. The fully upgraded Congo has got pretty decent anti-aircraft guns for its tier, but he didn't have an upgraded Congo at all, and he actually took a full broadside of torps from this Bogue that we're killing right now because this guy was doing manual torp drops. The other Bogue driver wasn't, but this guy was, and he nailed our Congo really hard in the side. And to be fair, against manual torp drops in an unupgraded Congo, he probably didn't have a lot of chance of trying to dodge them, but he honestly wasn't even trying, the Congo driver. He just ploughed straight on in a straight line. Didn't even try to turn or kill his speed or anything like that. And once the torpedoes are in the water, there's nothing you can do at that point. And if somebody is doing manual drops when they see you turning, they'll just wait. They'll just adjust their course and you know, come at you from a different angle. So I'm not being too critical of this Congo driver. Yeah, he wasn't really trying, but even if he had, it probably wouldn't have made a massive amount of difference. So that's the more dangerous Bogue driver out of the way. I actually got the kill there. I've gotten 21 hits up to this point. And against, and there we go, yeah, he's about to lose most of the rest of his health. But he doesn't die, he does at least stay alive. Against the other Bogue, I'm going to end up with, it was something like another 30 shots. And I actually thought I would come out of this one with a reasonable amount of XP. Because the last game, I didn't put up the score screens, but that drop against that New York was literally the only damage I was able to do in that game. I was not fast enough to get around the map to do any other damage, not even with my guns, which kind of, you know, sucked. But yeah, it didn't also help that there was a Minikaze platoon that was just running around and murdering everything, you know, with much better torpedoes and faster speed, yes, more speed. Anyway, I can English. So yeah, so the Bogue, and I was initially trying to set him on fire. I definitely got a speed advantage over him by like 10 knots, something like that, 11 knots. So I knew I definitely wasn't going to have any trouble keeping up. He did try a drop on me, but you know, it was an automatic drop. It wasn't that difficult to dodge out the way. When people do manual drops against destroyers, that can be, yeah, if they're being really clever about it, and if you're in something like this where you want to keep your guns on target and doing any kind of maneuvering will not let you keep your guns on target, it can be difficult. And they can end up, while you're trying to shoot at them, nailing you rather badly. So I managed, and this is all, I mean, I started off with HE trying to set the guy on fire, and then this is all AP from this point onwards, and I do actually get some Citadel hits. I think the first Citadel was actually an HE Citadel. You don't see that very often, but the Bogue doesn't have a lot of armour. And I think with a flatter trajectory, I probably could have managed even more, but there we go. Because I'm relatively close, it didn't matter quite so much. I was slightly concerned he'd sent these torp bombers up to get me, and you know, I probably could have dodged them, but he died before he could give the command, so they got in the air and then they just flew around. So that one we actually won on points as the timer ran out. So it was looking a bit dicey. It came down to 2 ships versus 2 ships, and they were capping our cap circle, but like I said, the timer ran out. We had more points, and so therefore we won. So that was my score, and I was rather disappointed by that. 848 XP. I was 4th from the bottom, and I was really hoping that would be a much better match, but it was not, and it was 28,000 damage with the guns. So, I mean, the torpedoes on this are in theory better, but I just think it's the speed that kills it above all else. And if it had better gun traverse, then maybe it wouldn't matter so much. But yeah, no, although these are all preliminary initial opinions, these are all kind of just gut feeling based on not a lot of gameplay. I highly suspect that this is, I'm not going to be wrong about that this is going to be regarded as the stinker of the line. So this was the first bit of gameplay footage. I'm going to do exactly the same with tiers 5 to 7 and then 8 to 10. And I hope you stick around for those. But in the meantime, if you enjoyed this, you can leave any comments below. You can check out the port video. You can hit the like button. You can subscribe to my channel. And as always, stay tuned for more.